stories that made the headlines. My name is Emedion James, coming to you live from Uyo. Let's take a look at today's major headlines. President Tinubu orders manhunt for abductors, rescue of 25 pupils. Governor Moino calls for loyalty and faithfulness among government workers. Plus, Trump to end temporary protected status for Somalis. We'll bring it in just a moment. Many thanks for staying tuned. We begin the news within the week from a national scene where President Bola Tinubu has said that his administration's economic and institutional reforms are designed to equip Nigerian youth with globally competitive skills to secure their future. Tinubu said this when he received the Duke of Edinburgh, Prince Edward, at the State House, Abuja, stressed that his goal is to use education to drive down poverty. A statement by the Special Advisor to the President on Information and Strategy, Bayo Onanuga, says plans for the Duke of Edinburgh International Award event in Lagos were also discussed. On his part, the chairman of the Duke of Edinburgh International Award Foundation, Prince Edward, commended the administration's reforms, saying they have drawn positive global reviews. The Duke announced that 320 Nigerian youth will be recognized at the award event to be held in partnership with the Lagos state government. In the meantime, President Tinubu has ordered security and intelligence agencies to immediately rescue the 25 female students abducted during an attack on Government Girls Comprehensive Senior Secondary School, JJCSSS, Maga in Kebbi State. Minister of Information and National Orientation Mohammed Idris announced the President's directive for a high-level rescue operation. The minister assured that the federal government would not relent until the girls are safely reunited with their families. He also said the country is strengthening cooperation with the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, the African Union, AU, and the Multinational Joint Task Force, MNGTF, to secure its borders and dismantle terrorist networks. Meanwhile, President Bola Tinubu has approved changes in two key federal agencies and national inland waterways authorities NIWA, and the Nigerian Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative (NITI). He redeployed and appointed officials to strengthen transparency, accountability, and effective service delivery in strategic sectors of government. The changes were contained in a statement issued by the Director, Information and Public Relations in the Office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, SGF, Shehu Imoyeshen. According to the statement, President Tinubu approved the redeployment of Musa Saki from his position as NIWA chairman to serve as Executive Secretary of NITI. Mukhtar Shehu Shagari was appointed as the new NIWA chair to replace Ade. The president urged the newly appointed and redeployed officials to approach their responsibilities with patriotism and professionalism. Away from that, Vice President Kashim Shettima has restated Nigeria's readiness to do business with the rest of the world. Shettima gave the assurance when he received a delegation from the Advanced Energy Partners (AEP) on a courtesy visit to the presidential villa, Abuja. He said that the ongoing reforms undertaken by President Bola Tinubu's administration across different sectors was opening new opportunities for investment. Shettima noted that the Tinubu's administration, through specific policies and interventions, was creating the enabling environment for the economy to grow and attract foreign direct investment. In the meantime, Vice President Kashim Shettima has arrived in Johannesburg, South Africa, where he will be representing President Bola Tinubu at the G20 Leaders Summit. He was received at the Waterloo Air Force Base in Johannesburg by the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Wale Edun. Nigeria's Charge d'Affaires to South Africa, Ambassador Alexander, among others. President Tinubu was earlier scheduled to be in South Africa on Wednesday, November 19th, following an invitation from President Cyril Ramaphosa. However, the President's council is strapped to receive security briefings following the abduction of schoolgirls in Kebbi and the attack on worshippers at Christ Apostolic Church in Eruku, Kwara State. In a separate development, the National Security Advisor Nuhu Ribadu has met with the United States Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth following U.S. President Donald Trump's threat against Nigeria. Hegseth announced the visit in a post on his official X account. He said he received Ribadu and his team to discuss the killings of Christians in Nigeria. Recall that U.S. President Donald Trump has threatened to instruct the Department of War to send troops into Nigeria with guns a blessing to wipe out the Islamic terrorists who he said were killing Christians. Away from that, the federal government within the week expressed concerns over the decision of the U.S. to exclude it from participating in the U.S. rapper Nicki Minaj event on the alleged killings of Christians in Nigeria. The Minaj event, which was held at the UN headquarters in New York in collaboration with the permanent mission of the U.S. to the UN, was against the background of the ongoing accusation by the U.S. alleging Christian persecution in Nigeria. Meanwhile, the Charge d'Affaires permanent mission of Nigeria to the U.S., Sidom Edoni, has said that the decision to exclude Nigeria from the discussion held at the UN headquarters in New York was themed "Shaving Our Head in Our Absence." The Nigerian envoy, however, refuted the ongoing accusations by the U.S. authority alleging Christian genocide in Nigeria, which the Nigerian authorities have repeatedly rejected. In the meantime, The federal government has ordered the immediate closure of 41 federal unity colleges over rising security concerns. The directive was issued through a circular dated November 21, 2025 from the Federal Ministry of Education. According to the document, the Minister of Education, Tunji, allows following recent security challenges in parts of the country and the need to prevent breaches. The circular asks principals of affected schools to enforce the closure without delay. The 41 schools are in states across the Northwest, Northeast, North Central, and part of the South. Meanwhile, the Plateau State government has shut basic schools over what it described as potential threat, saying the move is with immediate effect. This directive was contained in a statement by the Plateau State Universal Basic Education Board. Let's move now to the Red Chambers, where the Senate has summoned the Executive Secretary of the Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Board, NCDMB, giving him 2 weeks to appear before the Committee on Local Content over an alleged $14.86 million fraud linked to investment in Atlantic International Refinery and Petrochemical Limited. The Senate further resolved that the NCDMB management must provide the committee with full documentation on all transactions connected to the alleged conspiracy and dishonest conversion of 14,859,257 by December the 2nd. The directive follows recent reports from the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission (EFCC), declaring former Minister of State for Petroleum Resources Timothy Silva wanted in connection with the matter. According to reports cited during the session, the funds in question represent capital allegedly injected by the NCDMB into Atlantic Refinery for the establishment of a refinery project. In the meantime, the Senate President Godswill Akpabio has revealed that he often breaks down in tears whenever he hears of violent attacks and killings in Plateau State. Akpabio, who made the revelation in a statement issued by his media aide, Aniete Ekong, said even President Bola Tinubu was deeply troubled by the years of bloodshed in Plateau communities and is determined to restore peace and stability to the state. He stressed that Tinubu is truly worried that a state that was a model of peace and cordial existence has now become an epicenter of violence, bloodshed, persistent killings, and widespread destructions, warning that the circle of violence has gone on for too long and must stop by all means. Still on the matter, worried by the abduction of 25 students of the Government Girls Comprehensive Secondary School, Manga, in Kebbi State, the Senate within the week urged President Bola Tinubu to immediately approve urgent recruitment of at least 100,000 Nigerians into the military to further boost security in the country. This was just as it set up an ad hoc committee to carry out thorough investigation into the fund expended so far on the Safe School initiative, while calling for the rescue of all the students from their abductors. The Senate resolutions were sequel to an urgent motion sponsored by Senator Yahaya Abdullahi on the abduction of the schoolgirls in the early hours of Monday. Presenting the motion, Senator Abdullahi said the abduction of students and killing of the school vice principal by bandits was a dirty slap on the face of the nation, which must be seriously looked into and urgently addressed. Let's move now to the Green Chambers, where the House of Representatives Accord Committee on Implementation and oversight of the Naira for crude oil policy has given government, ministries, departments and agencies a 7-day ultimatum to submit all documents requested for its ongoing investigation or face parliamentary sanctions. The chairman of the committee, Boniface Emarangwa, issued the warning in Abuja after several invited agencies failed to appear before the panel with the required records. The lawmaker further noted that despite ample notice, majority of stakeholders failed to recognize the role of the legislative arm in working with the executive for the effective implementation of the policy by their failure to submit the required documents within the stipulated time frame. And Marangwa explained that the delay has hindered the committee's ability to scrutinize policy implementation, adding that the investigative hearing was being rescheduled for December 2nd, 2025. In the meantime, Deputy Speaker, House of Representatives Benjamin Kalu has said that despite the conviction of the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, Nnamdi Kanu, a political solution is underway to set him free. Kalu expressed confidence in President Bola Tinubu to listen to the pleas of well-meaning Igbo leaders on the matter, stating that the president would not be adverse to it. He urged the people of the southeastern Nigeria to remain calm, assuring that all hope is not lost. In another development, former Vice President Atiku Abubakar has asked President Bola Tinubu to urgently declare a state of emergency on the security situation in Nigeria. Atiku made the demand in a statement posted on his Facebook page. He was reacting to the adoption of students in Niger State. Recall the terrorists invaded St. Mary's Secondary School, Papiri in Aguwaru local government area of Niger State and abducted over 50 students and staff. Reacting, Atiku wondered why the Tinubu-led federal government is yet to take a decisive action on the deteriorating security situation in the country. In a sad development, more than 200 pupils were kidnapped by gunmen from a Catholic church in central Nigeria on Friday, the second mass school kidnapping this week. The latest attack targeted St. Mary's School in Papiri, Niger State, where authorities had already ordered the temporary closure of all boarding schools due to the rising security threat. The Christian Association of Nigeria said 215 students and 12 members of staff were taken during the early morning raid. Nigeria has faced a renewed wave of attacks by armed groups in recent days, including the kidnapping on Monday of more than 20 schoolgirls from a boarding school in neighboring Kebbi State. A church was also attacked further south in Kwara State, with 2 people killed and 38 abducted while the service was being broadcast online. In a statement, the authorities in Niger State said the school, attended by both girls and boys, had disregarded an order to close all boarding facilities following intelligence warning of a heightened risk of attacks. In this next report, the bandits who abducted worshippers from the Christ Apostolic Church Oke Igan Eregu in Ekiti local government area of Kwara State have reportedly demanded 100 million naira ransom per victim. According to the pastor in charge of the church, Lawrence Bamidele, he said that multiple family sources and community leaders confirmed to newsmen that the kidnappers had commenced contacting relatives of the victims using the phones of the abductees. Also confirming the development, the Olori Eta of Eruku, Chief Olusegun Olukuntong, whose 4 family members were among those abducted, said the kidnappers were reaching out systematically. Meanwhile, the monarch commended the swift deployment of military personnel to the community following the visit of the state governor, but stressed that more needed to be done. We move now to court matters where Justice James Omotosho of the Federal High Court Abuja has explained why he opted for a life sentence instead of a death penalty for Nnamdi Kanu, leader of the proscribed indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, who was convicted of alleged terrorism. The judge noted that the sentence for Nnamdi Kanu was death penalty, but he had to show mercy because of the teachings of the Holy Book. According to him, the death penalty is gradually being abolished in many countries, while religious doctrines also advocate mercy. In the meantime, in line with the judgment of the Federal High Court in Abuja, the Department of State Services (DSS) has moved the convicted leader of the proscribed indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, Nnamdi Kanu, to the Nigerian Custodial Center in Sokoto. A source within the service said his movement followed his conviction and sentencing for terrorism. Delivering judgment within the week, Justice James Omotosho of the Federal High Court in Abuja has said the secret police should move Kanu to any correctional facility within the country apart from Kuje in Abuja. Back here, Akwa Ibom State Governor Pastor Moino has called for unwavering loyalty and faithfulness amongst government workers as fundamental keys to effective and productive service delivery in the system. Governor made a remark during the swearing-in ceremony of the state new head of service, Elsie Peters, at the Banquet Hall, Government House in Uyo. Governor congratulated Elsie Peters for being the 7th head of state, civil service, and the 4th woman to occupy the exalted office. Pastor No charged the new appointee to run a civil service where the key ingredient will be loyalty to the state and the governor, and the acute understanding of the ideals that shaped the government Arise agenda. Still to come in the news. Man says manufacturers spend 676 billion naira on generators in 6 months over blackout. Stay tuned for details of this in just a moment. Many thanks for staying tuned. This is Spectrum News within the week. Let's take a look at the concluding part of today's story. On a foreign scene, Ukraine's President Vladimir Zelensky will speak to Donald Trump after the U.S. has presented Ukraine with a draft peace plan to end the war with Russia. The plan was reportedly drafted by the U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff and his Russian counterpart Kirill Dmitriev without Ukraine's involvement. In a statement, Zelensky's office has said that the U.S. believed the draft plan would help reinvigorate diplomacy and added that Ukraine had agreed to work on the plan's provisions in a way that would bring about an end to the war. So on the foreign scene, relentless rains and floods have killed at least 41 people in central Vietnam since the weekend, while a search continues for 9 people still missing. According to report, the deluge have submerged more than 52,000 homes and left half a million households and businesses without power. The reports say rainfall exceeded 1.5 meters in several areas over the past 3 days, even rising beyond the 1993 flood peak of 5.2 meters in some parts. The worst hit areas include the coastal cities of Hoi and Nha Trang, as well as a key coffee production belt in the Central Highlands, where farmers are already reeling from a stalled harvest because of earlier storms. Let's move now to White House, where the U.S. President Donald Trump announced he will end the temporary status protecting Somali immigrants in Minnesota from deportation, claiming on Friday that his latest cut to refugee programs was a crime prevention measure. In a post on his Truth Social platform, Trump said he was hereby terminating effective immediately the Temporary Protected Status TPS program for Somalis in Minnesota, while accusing Somali gangs of harming locals. TPS protects its holders from deportation and allows them to work. It is granted to people deemed to be in danger if they return to their home countries because of war, natural disasters, or other extraordinary circumstances. In the meantime, after months of trading insults, U.S. President Donald Trump and his incoming New York City Mayor Zoran Mamdani smiled at each other, swapped compliments and pledges to collaborate on tackling crime and affordability in the nation's biggest city at an unexpectedly friendly meeting at the White House yesterday. The political opposites, a Republican billionaire and a young Democrat socialist, have clashed over everything from immigration to economic policy. But it was clear the two forged a rapport in their first encounter. Still on the foreign scene, a Philippine state prosecutor has sentenced Alice Gil, a Chinese national who became a mayor while masquerading as a Filipina, and 7 others to life in prison on human trafficking charges. Gil, who served as mayor of a town north of Manila, was found guilty of overseeing a Chinese-operated online gambling center where hundreds of people were forced to run scams or risk torture. The sprawling complex, which included office buildings, luxury villas, and a large swimming pool, was raided in March 2024 after a Vietnamese worker escaped and called the police. More than 700 Filipinos, Chinese, Vietnamese, Malaysians, Taiwanese, Indonesians, and Rwandans were found on site, along with documents allegedly showing that girl was president of a company that owned the compound. All 8 defendants, some of whom were foreign nationals, were sentenced to life in prison. State Prosecutor Oliver Choravel said outside a regional courtroom in Manila. Let's move now to Africa, where as Johannesburg gears up to host this weekend's G20 summit of rich and developing nations, the United States has once again said that it would not participate. The White House responded to comments by South African President Cyril Ramaphosa that Washington had changed its mind. Recall that the U.S. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said that the U.S. would send a diplomatic delegation to hand over ceremony at the end of the event, but will not participate in talks. The handover is meant to recognize that near year's G20 will be hosted by the U.S. It is scheduled to take place at President Donald Trump's golf club in Doral, Florida. Still in Africa, Tanzania's President Samia Hassan has said that the violence that followed the country's disputed October election could hurt access to international funding. Speaking as she sworn in government ministers, Hassan said what happened had tarnished the country's image and reduced its chances of getting loans. She urged officials to focus on raising funds from domestic sources. Reports say Tanzania remains physically dependent on external financing, with aid still accounting for some 23% of government revenue in 2023. On our business news, the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, MAN, has warned that manufacturers spent 676.6 billion naira on alternative energy in the first half of 2025 and still could not meet their power needs due to the country's unreliable and unaffordable electricity supply. The Man Manufacturing State of Affairs October 2025 report, presented by the Director of the Research and Economic Policy Division, Dr. Oluwasegun Osidepe, highlighted the energy woes that still plague the sector despite a drop in alternative energy costs in the first 6 months of the year. The cost of alternative energy fell from 708.1 billion naira recorded in the second half of 2024. Still, MAN insisted that the burden remained unstable for manufacturers already battling rising inflation, high interest rates, and increased production costs. Still in business, Naira yesterday appreciated to 140. I beg your pardon. Naira yesterday appreciated to 1,470 naira per dollar in the parallel market from 1,475 naira per dollar on Wednesday. The naira also depreciated to 1,459 naira per dollar in the Nigerian foreign exchange market. Data published by the Central Bank of Nigeria (CBN) showed that the exchange rate for the naira rose to 1,459 naira per dollar from 1,451 naira per dollar, indicating 8.95 naira depreciation for the Nigerian currency. As a result, the margin between the parallel market and NAFEM rate narrowed to 10.5 naira per dollar from 26 naira per dollar on Wednesday. Still to come in the news. Man United forward Sesko out for a few weeks. Stay tuned for details of this in just a moment. Many thanks for staying tuned. Let's go over now to a sport, entertainment and health news. In sport, Benjamin Sesko will be out of action for a few weeks after hurting his knee before the international break, manager Ruben Amorim said yesterday. The forward, who joined United from RB Leipzig for $97 million in August, was injured during the 2-2 draw at Tottenham on November 8 and missed Slovenia's World Cup qualifiers. Amorim was initially more concerned about the issue due to the fact it related to a knee. But the United boss is confident the 22-year-old has avoided a lengthy layoff. Amorim said he expected Sesko to return around the time that Cameroon's Brian Mbebo, Ivory Coast international Ahmed Diallo and Morocco's Nosia Mazraoui for the African Cup of Nations, which begins in Morocco on December 21. Still in sport, coach Enzo Maresca has said the Chelsea and England forward Cole Palmer will miss 2 Premier League games on the Champions League clash with Barcelona next week after fracturing a toe. Maresca said that the 23-year-old Palmer, who had just returned to training after 2 months out with a groin injury, had suffered the injury at home. He apparently stubbed his toe on a door at night. Palmer will be sidelined for a Saturday's trip to Burnley, the home game against Barcelona on Tuesday, and next weekend's Premier League match against leaders Arsenal. Away from that, Morocco's captain Achraf Hakimi within the week won the African's Main Player of the Year award within the week, capping a season in which he lifted the UEFA Champions League with his club Paris Saint-Germain. The 27-year-old also won a 4th Ligue 1 title last season and claimed the French Cup and UEFA Super Cup. However, PSG came up short in the final of the Club World Cup as Hakimi was forced to settle for a runner-up medal in New York. The right-back beat out 2 past winners in Liverpool's Egyptian forward Mohamed Salah and Nigerian striker Victor Osimhen to claim the prize for the first time in his career. Away from that, Napoli's president Aurelio De Laurentiis will stand trial for his alleged involvement in the false accounting saga in Victor Osimhen's move to the club in 2020. The figure in Osimhen's transfer to Napoli from Ligue 1 club Lille 5 years ago was alleged to have been inflated. According to Tuttosport, the Nigerian international transfer involved goalkeeper Orentus Kanesis and 3 Primavera players, Manzi, Palmari and Liguori. According to prosecutors, the valuation of the 3 players were artificially inflated to improve Napoli's financial position. On entertainment news, Nigerian music stars Yemi Alade and Tiwa Savage have finally reconciled after 7 years of feud. The rift started on social media when Yemi Alade cryptically criticized female entertainers for enhancing their buttocks in photos to deceive their fans. Yemi Alade's post came a few hours after Tiwa Savage shared photos highlighting her curves. In response, Tiwa warned Yemi Alade not to start a war that she could not finish. However, the reconciliation took place in Lagos on Thursday at the price of being her panel organized by Entertainment Week Africa. Also, Grammy-winning Nigerian singer Damini Ogunlu, also known as Burna Boy, has reacted to criticism over his recent action where he kicked a couple out of his concert in Denver for sleeping while he was performing. However, addressing the issue during a recent live stream, Burna Boy stated that he did not beg for fans, boasting that he only values rich fans. Meanwhile, Burna Boy's response has sparked discourse about how he treats his fans, who are the main drivers of his musical success, with some allegedly threatening to cancel him. Still on entertainment, Nigerian singer and rapper Olamide Adedeji, popularly known as Olamide Bado, within the week revealed how he handles negative criticisms. The war hitmaker explained that it is impossible to evade criticism as a successful person or someone aspiring to be successful. He added that one tackle criticism be remaining focused on goals and endeavors. Recall that Olamide recently came under heavy criticism after he declared Wizkid as the greatest Afrobeat artist after Fela. And that's all we have for you at this time. Do ensure to follow us on social media, subscribe to YouTube channel, all of which you can find on our website at spectrumtvlive.ng. I am Emedion James and you've been watching Spectrum News within the week. Do enjoy the rest of your day and thank you for watching.